this Conor McGregor fight in July is going to be fucking bananas. It's going to be bananas. I mean, people are going to go crazy for the return of Conor McGregor because he's a giant personality.
But don't expect the same thing.
How could
you just can't.
He hasn't fought in 5 years,
That's
right?
exactly it.
It's been 5 years.
But that's the problem.
It might be more.
Because they're going to all expect that.
I think it is a little over 5. It's almost 6, I think.
It might be 6 at the time of the fight.
It might be. I think it's 5. I think it's 5 right now.
Are we expecting to see a Conor that looked like Nate this last fight? Or are we expecting to see a better Conor than someone that looked like Nate? Because Nate did not look good.
No, but Mike Perry did.
And
Mike Perry looked like a fucking murderer.
You know what I mean? Like
Mike Perry is a murderer.
He's a murderer.
And this is
such a savage.
You take a look at that, and when you're taking an older fighter, which Nate is now, and you're
21. You're 5 fucking years ago, July. So it literally will be 6 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
But when you're
it'll be 5 years. It'll be 5 years.
When you're taking a younger fighter and putting them against the old dog, it normally doesn't end well for the old dog.
They'll win multiple world titles by taking people for that, yeah.
Joe Rogan just said the quiet part out loud about Conor McGregor's return, and it wasn't the reaction most fans expected. New training footage of McGregor ahead of UFC 329 has been circulating for weeks, splitting the MMA community right down the middle. Some fans see a leaner, sharper fighter rebuilding himself for one more run. Others see stiffness, hesitation, the visible cost of 5 years away from the octagon. Into that debate walked Joe Rogan, the UFC's longtime color commentator and arguably the most influential voice in combat sports media. And what he said managed to hype the fight while simultaneously raising doubts about the man everyone's talking about. This Conor McGregor fight in July is gonna be bananas, Rogan said, describing the kind of chaos he expects around fight week. He wasn't wrong to expect it. McGregor remains the biggest draw the sport has ever produced, and his return alone was enough to sell out pre-sale tickets within minutes, with resale prices on the secondary market reportedly climbing as high as $88,000 for a single seat. People are going to show up for this fight regardless of who they think wins it. That much isn't in question. What is in question, according to Rogan himself, is whether McGregor is actually the live dog in this fight. Rogan didn't hide his skepticism, explaining why he leans toward Max Holloway heading into July 11th. He pointed to something simple and hard to argue with: activity. McGregor hasn't competed since breaking his leg against Dustin Poirier in 2021, a stretch of over 5 years without stepping into the cage. Holloway, meanwhile, has fought 8 times in that same window, 5 of them for a title, including a run through the BMF championship and a win over Poirier himself. The thing is about Max Holloway is that he isn't that much younger than Conor, but Max has been in constant high-level competition the entire time, Rogan explained, laying out exactly why he sees this as a fundamentally different situation than most McGregor comebacks in the past. That's the part of Rogan's comments that's actually reshaping the conversation. This isn't a case of an analyst picking against McGregor because of hype or bias. It's a straightforward read on ring rust versus consistent, elite-level output, and it's coming from someone who calls fights inside the octagon for a living and has watched both men evolve up close for over a decade. There's also the weight class angle, which Rogan brought up almost as an afterthought, but which carries real weight of its own. UFC 329 will be contested at welterweight, a new division for Holloway, who spent his entire career competing at featherweight and lightweight. Conventional logic would suggest that jump favors McGregor, the naturally bigger man moving up less dramatically. Rogan flipped that logic on its head. Because Holloway won't need to cut weight to make 170 pounds, Rogan argued the fight actually plays in his favor, not against him. This is 170 pounds, which is even better, no weight cutting at all, he said, adding that given how high profile the matchup is, Holloway is going to walk in already in peak condition, without the physical toll that comes from a hard weight cut in fight week. That's a detail easy to miss if you're only paying attention to the size difference on paper. Weight cuts drain fighters. They affect recovery, hydration, power output, and how a fighter's body responds under pressure in the championship rounds. If Holloway is stepping into this fight fresh, without having starved himself down to make weight, that's a real physical advantage, regardless of who's technically the bigger man walking into the cage. None of this means Rogan is writing McGregor off entirely. Even while making the case for Holloway, Rogan was clear about why this fight is going to be as massive as it is. McGregor's pull as a personality, his history as a 2-division champion, and the sheer spectacle of his return are not things Rogan dismissed. He's simply separating the hype from the pick, something a lot of MMA media struggles to do when McGregor's name is involved. Being excited about a fight and believing McGregor wins it are 2 entirely different things, and Rogan's comments made that distinction unusually clear. That distinction matters because it's exactly the divide showing up in the reaction to McGregor's actual training footage. Clips have surfaced showing him working with longtime coach John Kavanagh, and the reception has been anything but unified. Some viewers pointed to improved conditioning and sharper combinations, evidence that the rebuilt leg and the years away haven't cost him his explosiveness. Others focused on stiffness in his movement, and a step that looked, to their eyes, noticeably slower than the version of McGregor who once finished Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. Numerous fans following the footage have specifically raised concerns that McGregor looks slow compared to the fighter they remember, a worry that lines up almost exactly with the skepticism Rogan voiced about ring rust. It's worth remembering how long that layoff actually is. 5 years is not a short break in a sport like this. Reflexes fade. Reaction time to strikes and shots changes. The instinct to engage instead of hesitate, something fighters build through constant live competition, doesn't stay sharp in a vacuum, no matter how intense a training camp looks on camera. Holloway hasn't had to rebuild any of that. He's been living it, fight after fight, against some of the best competition the lightweight and featherweight divisions have to offer. This is also not the first comeback attempt McGregor has had to navigate. He was originally scheduled to return 2 years ago against Michael Chandler, only to withdraw after suffering a training injury. That history adds another layer to the current skepticism. It's one thing to talk about a comeback. It's another to actually get through a full camp healthy and step into the octagon on fight night. The fact that McGregor has made it this far, with fight week now approaching on July 11 in Las Vegas, is itself a meaningful milestone, regardless of how the actual fight plays out. There's a bigger storyline sitting underneath all of this too. McGregor and Holloway have history that goes back 13 years, to a featherweight bout in Boston in 2013 that McGregor won by unanimous decision. Both men were different fighters then. Holloway was 21, still years away from becoming the elite, high-volume striker he'd eventually turn into. McGregor was 25, on the rise but nowhere near the global superstar he'd become. This rematch isn't just a measuring stick for where McGregor stands physically. It's a chance for Holloway to close a loop from over a decade ago, against a version of McGregor who, according to Rogan's own read, might not have the tools to finish what he started back then. The stakes stretch beyond the scorecard for both men. For McGregor, a win reopens doors that have been closed since 2021, title conversations, super fights, and a level of momentum that resets the entire narrative around his career. A loss, particularly a bad one, raises harder questions about whether this comeback should have happened at all. For Holloway, beating McGregor a second time, in a new weight class, against a version of him fueled by 5 years of anticipation, adds another signature win to an already loaded resume, and does it on one of the biggest stages the sport can offer. Rogan's comments essentially framed the entire fight in one clean sentence: the spectacle is guaranteed, the outcome isn't. That's a harder needle to thread than most reaction content gives credit for. It's easy to hype a McGregor fight. It's much harder to publicly explain, with specific reasoning, why the betting favorite might not actually be the smart pick. Rogan did both at once, and that's exactly why his comments spread as fast as they did. Whether he ends up right is a different question entirely, one that won't get answered until McGregor and Holloway are actually standing across from each other on July 11th at T-Mobile Arena. Training footage can only tell you so much. It shows conditioning, sharpness, maybe even confidence. It doesn't show how a fighter's reflexes hold up against live, championship-level pressure after a 5-year gap, and it doesn't account for the psychological weight of a fight this big, on both sides of the cage. So where do you land on this one? Are you buying Rogan's read that Holloway's activity and the no-cut weight class make him the smarter pick? Or do you think McGregor's power and experience are still enough to shut that argument down on fight night? Drop your prediction below, and if you want the breakdowns, the reactions, and the fight week build-up as it happens, subscribe and stay locked in